All right, it is 7 p.m. and I would like to call this meeting to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to participate virtually are included in the city council calendar item listed in the front page of missionks.org. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Robin, please call the roll.
Thomas, House.
Here.
Loudon. Here. Ryherd.
Here.
Kring.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Carpenter Davis. Here. Tosi.
Here.
All right, we do have a need for a revised agenda for tonight's meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve our revised agenda.
Mayor, I move the city council approve the revised January 17th, 2024 agenda as printed.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Robin, please call the roll.
Tosi.
Aye.
Carpenter Davis. Schmidt.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Loudon.
Yes.
House.
Aye.
Thomas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we do not have any public hearings this evening, so we will move into our special presentations. We do have two special presentations tonight. First, we have comments for outgoing Deputy City Administrator Emily Randall, followed by an update from representatives from Evergy regarding utility work and power outages in the city. So first up, tonight marks the last official city council meeting that Ms. Randall will be attending in her role as Deputy City Administrator for Finance and Administrative Services for Mission. Ms. Smith, I would like to invite you to share a few words about Emily and her time in Mission.
Thank you, Mayor. And as I admitted to you yesterday, I have been in denial, but tonight we definitely didn't want to miss this opportunity to make a few comments about our outgoing Deputy City Administrator, Emily Randall. Although she isn't officially leaving for another 12 days, but who's counting? This does mark her last official council meeting, as the mayor said. So I hope you'll give me a few moments to share some thoughts and to remind Emily just what she means to the city of Mission. This year, I think, unless you're living under a rock, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour has certainly dominated entertainment headlines. And for those of us here in Kansas City, the headlines of her romance with Chiefs player Travis Kelce have reached epic proportions. Got me thinking about what an era really represents. So I looked it up. According to Merriam-Webster, an era is defined as a long and distinct period of history with a particular feature or characteristic. And tonight, I'd like to officially declare 2013 to 2023 as the Emily era for the city of Mission. Perhaps that seems a little out of character when recognizing a staff member, and I would generally agree. We're notorious for defining our success as working extra hard to support, encourage, and accomplish your goals behind the scenes, out of the spotlight. But sometimes you have to make exceptions. And there are times when it is appropriate to call out the superstars and to be overt and generous in praising their contributions and recognizing their impacts. I know that each one of us sitting in this room tonight has a favorite or maybe a compilation of favorite Emily stories or experiences. And it would be easy to spend hours sharing them, but for the benefit of all of us here, I won't do that. And as difficult as it's going to be, I will keep it brief. I'm going to break it down into 5 simple observations about E-M-I-L-Y, Emily. E, energetic. Have you ever had the privilege of knowing a more energetic human being? In a recent conversation, the mayor referred to the Emily sparkle, which caused Emily to both blush and roll her eyes. But I think we can all agree there's some truth to that description. Knowing that Emily was probably reacting to what might feel like a superficial or artificial coating, I have chosen to think of it as the Emily glimmer. What are glimmers? They are small moments that spark joy or peace, helping us to feel safe or calm and positively impacting our mental health. I don't think there's any arguing that we've all been blessed with lots of Emily glitters. M, motivating. Over the last 10 years, I have continually been impressed by her ability to motivate people to action, to new ways of thinking, or to consider another perspective. It's more than cheerleading. It's a genuine belief in the good of people and their ability, with the right encouragement and accountability, to become better versions of themselves. I think that's her superpower. I, intuitive. She's got a good gut. She's perceptive, emotionally intelligent, and also 100% no nonsense. One of my favorite things from the last 10 years has been watching her trust her own intuition and instincts and to step even more solidly into situations where she can share that with others. Elle, her listener, you know it, I know it. She's one of the best you'll ever meet. She listens with sincerity, empathy, and compassion, and you leave conversations with her truly feeling heard. Why? Yearning. She has a longing for doing more, for being more, and for contributing more. She's mindful of her successes, but unwilling to be complacent, whether that's in her work or her personal life. It's a rare and subtle trait. I consciously chose tonight not to list all of the things that she has accomplished. The programs she's developed or led, the research she's done, the roll up your sleeves, get to it attitude that produces meaningful and valuable work every single day for the last 10 years. I chose instead to take the opportunity to remind her that what she has done during her time in mission has been possible because of who she is. And that will be true in whatever the next phase of her journey might bring. One only works with the other. In a recent review of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, the movie, a critic described the film as a voice made to fit the lyrics, neither overwhelming nor underwhelming, an intensification and distillation of what's extraordinary in ordinary life. I can't think of a more perfect way to characterize Emily's voice, both inside and outside the city of Mission. Thank you, Emily, for sharing so much of yourself with us these last 10 years. We will mark the end of the Emily era with great admiration and appreciation. We got a good one. And if there's one thing I've learned from you over the years, it's this: sing the song, dance the dance, take the chance, and be true to yourself. We say so long for now and not goodbye, because there's no doubt our paths will cross again. Thank you. There we are. I don't know, Mayor, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to that, but thank
Yeah.
you for giving me the opportunity to share those thoughts.
Yeah, I also cheated like Laura in the hopes of keeping it together. I wrote down a couple of remarks, and I think you'll hear a lot of echoes in what Laura said in my comments about Emily, and then I'll open up to council if anyone has anything else to add. But I just wanted to say I'm incredibly thankful for your decade of service to Mission. It's hard to find anyone who can match your dedication and enthusiasm for making Mission and your broader community a better place. You are an amazing team builder. You really build others up and value each person's contribution. I said it before and Laura mentioned it too, but I will stand by my sparkle comment. We can also call it the X factor. It's, the sum being greater than the whole of its parts. We'll really miss that. That's going to be hard to replace, all of those intangibles that you really bring to the city. And then I'll miss you, but I know that whatever you do next, you're going to be amazing and they'll be lucky to have you. Council have anything to add? Yeah, Debbie?
I just want to say, if it were not for Emily, we would not have the market. The market has done phenomenal. It was a vision 10 years ago, and it has come to fruition, and Emily is a big part of making that happen. Her ability and her dedication to sustainability is second to none. She has been the liaison or the coordinator of all the Sustainability Commission activities, and she doesn't just do it because it's a job. That's her heart, and her soul is in sustainability and environmental practices to their best. So thank you, Emily. Please don't go away. And you can change your mind and come back.
Yeah, Trent and Hillary.
Quick comment, Emily represents the best in public service, and it was a pleasure working with you. And I just loved joking with you and always getting to pop in and make a dumb comment in your office. So thanks for endearing me, and we'll miss you.
I think you have been working over the past 10 years, having the finish line constantly pushed just like a little bit further down the road. And you've constantly answered that with a yes and a positive attitude. And how can we innovatively tackle this. And I would challenge anyone who thinks that city government could be bureaucratic or move too slow to meet you, because you have taken what I thought I knew local government to be and really blown my mind. So thank you.
Yeah, Leah.
I'm probably just going to start crying now and not be able to talk at all. But, when I first decided to become involved in local government, your face just made it look like so much fun that I knew I had to give it a shot. So thank you for all that you've done and for the glimmer and the glow and whatever else. You're amazing and we will miss you.
Yeah, Mary.
Yeah, so my first memory of you was joining sustainability as PRT, and I just remember joining and being like, oh my goodness, who is this person? You are such a force. You're going to be a force anywhere you go. And you kind of, like Hillary said, you make people want to be involved, and that is a huge gift. So thank you so much. We'll miss you.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in particular, it's impossible to overstate the joy that the market has brought to my family. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Cheryl.
Thank you for always helping me decide how to gift people appropriately.
So many talents.
Yeah, Brian.
One of the things I've always enjoyed is anytime I was trying to make a decision on if I should go to a city event of some kind, they'd be like, am I gonna know anybody there? Oh yeah, I'll know Emily. Emily's gonna be there. And so it always made it an easy decision because you're always just so welcoming to anybody whoever came to any of those events. So my only, I guess, disappointment or regret is that you're leaving at the same time I'm actually starting on council. So.
It's our.
All right. Well, thank you, Emily. I don't know if you have anything that you want to say. We won't put you on the spot, but if you do want to share any comments, feel free. Remember microphone too, but
I really couldn't possibly say what I want to say, but I said it when Juliana interviewed and asked if I had anything to share with the residents of Mission, and that's when I lost it for the first time because I wasn't prepared to say what I really feel, which is how special this place is, and I really believe that. And I have always appreciated how this council has been civil, and that I was proud to say that I worked for the council that was upright and worthy of our pursuits. And we work so hard, and I feel that you all have honored that work, and I've really just enjoyed every day. So thank you.
all right, let's give one more round of applause for Emily. Thank you. Our second presentation this evening is from representatives from Evergy. At the conclusion of the Evergy presentation, we will allow for questions from the governing body, and then we will move into public comment or questions on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just very quickly going to introduce Scott Jones with Evergy, who has a whole complement of other associates with him this evening to be able to share. They do have a presentation that they will run through. And as you said, we'll have the opportunity for question and comments after that. So without any further delay, I'll turn it over to Scott Jones.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, for tonight, and Emily. What a way to follow. Well, goodbye. I'm sorry we didn't have a slide or two for you. You know, you were at all the ribbon cuttings I was at this past year. I've only had a year to work with Emily, but she's been fantastic. So, gosh, I'm gonna miss you. Oh, okay. Moving on. Evergy. Again, I'm Scott Jones. I'm what they call the business manager for Johnson County. So I work with all the mayors and the managers and administrators in all the Johnson County cities. I'm usually the guy that they call when issues are coming up, and then I go to my team. So as Laura said, I will be turning around for the Q&A to all the resources. They do all the work. So all of them, I'm going to just kind of run through my slides fairly quickly because, you know, Evergy's been around here forever, 125 years, I believe we're on to, maybe 135, I've lost track. But we serve all of Mission, obviously, pretty much all of Johnson County, all of Johnson County. I guess we've jumped into our priorities and focus here, our corporate strategy. I'd really rather get to this. They're our combined service areas. So about 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, it was Kansas City Power and Light for a long time, and we merged with Westar and became Evergy. And so now we serve 1.6 million customers, about 1 million here in Kansas, and the rest in Missouri. As you can see, we cover about half of the eastern half of Kansas. So pretty much all of Johnson County. You'll see a little blurb in Kansas City, Kansas, where BPU serves them. Otherwise, we've got all the green and the orange. So cover quite a bit of territory. And that's kind of our breakdown. Residential is the most of it, the 1.6. And then the commercial and the industrial follow. And you guys are mostly residential, so that's pretty much the load that we focus on. In terms of, even though we have most of our customers residential, the load is really only about 40%. So we have quite a bit of industrial and commercial load spread throughout our service territory, and even more so. I can talk all night about economic development. It's been incredible the last few years. I'll just give you a real snippet of it. We've historically, the big projects that would come to town have been in a load of about 2 megawatts. 2 megawatts serves a couple thousand people or so. So a typical load of that, it has been our history for a long time of the new projects coming in. The last couple of years, it's been 75 megawatts per project, just enormous growth. And so Panasonic is kind of the example that everybody sees in the news, but everybody wants to make batteries now. It's all reshoring. So we're getting a lot of that. We're dealing with a lot more. So what that does is it increases our commercial and industrial loads. And the more load we have, the more we spread out our costs. And so that is good for all of us, especially the residential folks. Evergy by the numbers, market cap's about 14 billion. And then 60,000 miles worth of distribution. The distribution lines are the ones that are in your backyards, the ones you see. The transmission lines are the big poles that you see out there on 435. And renewables. I'll talk about a little bit about renewables. We're about 50% non-carbon based right now. So the non-carbon based includes the Wolf Creek nuclear plant. That's about 1,600 megawatts out of our total nameplate capacity of 16,000. So Wolf Creek has that. We've put in a lot of wind. I think the first one went in back in 2008. So we've got a lot of wind. Just recently, we're starting to see the upswing in solar, utility scale solar. Obviously, your homes, you guys can do the solar and offset your own use, but we're actually installing some utility scale solar. So that's kind of the next wave of renewables. We have a target in 2045 to be carbon neutral, 100%. So, gosh, 25, did I say 2045? So in 25 more years, we hope to hit that target. That will include battery storage by then. That should be functional. Obviously, the wind, hydrogen is going to come online as a fuel. Coal obviously is going down. But gas will still be there and more renewable fuels. So that's the future of the industry. That's the future of us. So we focus on reliability and operational excellence, and that really gets down to the outage or reliability in your homes. And so that's where the team behind me kind of has a huger team behind them. And when you see the trucks, we're out there doing a lot of this. So modernizing, we spend a lot of time upgrading when we get the chance to upgrade the equipment and modernization. Smart meters is something that we rolled out starting about 10 years ago. That was something that historically required folks to get in your backyards and read the meter and then eventually put it on paper and get back to the main office. Now with SCADA systems and the computers, instantly we know theoretically when you're out. And so usually we get, if you guys, I think we have a social media page here where it kind of shows you how the outages are reported. We put a lot of effort into the social media side of it, the Facebook, the website really, and then the mobile app has been a big part of it. So investing in smart grids, The guys can kind of talk about more of that, about that when they're up here answering your questions. Vegetation management, Doug here, back here is definitely going to talk about the trees. So I have another slide on that. And then meeting the peak demands. Again, we peak out in the summer. Again, we have another little peak in the winter, and then in the shoulder months is when we kind of have a break when the weather's nice here and we get out in there. And that's when we have a shutdown at our Wolf Creek plant, and we try to get in there and fix it every couple of years. Same with all of our power plants. We're out there really working on them in the shoulder months. So our bulk of our work was last summer, which obviously we'll talk about July and how rough that was around here. And then here in the winter, keeping the lights on, especially with the snow that hit last week and hopefully melting coming up this week. So the DEMI 3 program, I'm going to turn this over to Donnie. He knows all about this and can explain it for you.
Hey, good evening. My name is Don Miles. I'm a construction coordinator out of Johnson County. Wanted to talk to you all about our DEMI 3 program that Scott was mentioning. DEMI 3 stands for Devices Experiencing Multiple Interruptions. These devices protecting the taps on the poles, fuses, transformers. So what we're doing is we're going through our software that's tracked through an outage management system, finding these devices that are experiencing 3 or more interruptions, and then proactively going out and patrolling the lines. So
I know we said we weren't going to interrupt, but 3 or more interruptions in what period of time?
I'm sorry, that's within a rolling year.
Okay,
within
rolling 12-month period.
365
Okay,
days.
thank you.
Yeah.
And can you also just make sure you're speaking in the mic? I know it's hard when you're looking at the slides, but thank you.
All right, okay. Upon patrolling these lines, doing things like fusing coordination when an outage occurs, less people will be impacted. New isolating devices being installed from outages, we're able to quickly isolate the damaged area, reducing outages, creating overhead loops to minimize total customers on the line and provide opportunities to further isolate an area when damage occurs. This is, typically we're in the business of, getting the lights on and reacting when something happens. This is when we have time to go out and proactively patrol the lines to see what we can do to prevent future outages. So this is the software we're utilizing. It's through Power BI. And so this is going into a little bit more of what tracking it through when we see it through 365 days, when it's hitting 3 or more, we're putting notes on the device and we're going out and sending folks out there to patrol the lines to get them back up and running. And yeah, that's about all I got.
Doug when he's ready. Thanks, Donnie. So again, a couple pictures of our linemen. I think we may have a video coming up. They're the folks you're seeing out there. And our tree training process. So that's really the one that Doug's here to talk about, and I'll let him go over the details of that.
We always hope that it's not the focus of attention, but we know that it has been lately. Doug Lehman, I'm the manager of the vegetation department. Basically, I cover all of the operations, the crews from Sedalia to Hutchinson, Kansas. So we're out there every day that we can, trimming trees, trying to keep the lights on. We do work year round, weather permitting. I know we've had a lot of days here recently where it was awfully cold, really too dangerous for those guys to be out. So we did shut them down for that. But again, year round, anytime we can, out there trying to keep the lights on. Part of our program is we go out ahead of this and we're looking at the trees. We're trying to identify what needs to be trimmed, trying to do the best we can with our resources. So I have contractors that are out. They're out on foot patrols looking for things, and they're basically entering it into an iPad. It's our work management system. All of our crews have that. So instantly they can get that. They sync up, they get those orders, and they go and they can roll to where they need to be. Then our tree trimmers are out. I utilize 3 contractors across our service territory. You mostly have probably seen Wrights and Asplin Tree out here. And then we come back afterwards and we audit these lines to make sure that did we get everything that we needed to get? Did we get everything marked from the get-go? So there's a process in place to make sure that we actually get through this and get what we're wanting to and try to keep those trees away. again, we're dealing with, and that's about 37,000 miles of overhead line. I know we said there was an earlier slide that had about 60,000, but a lot of that's underground, secondary, and that. The crews that I have are primarily looking at just the primary line, which is our main lines. When we get into the secondaries from the transformers to your house, that's going to be considered a customer responsibility. We can come out and a free of charge, we come out and we can trim those back from the line so it's safe for a private tree trimmer or a homeowner to do any work. But our main focus really is to get those main lines, and that's where we're impacting the most customers. Again, we leave a door hanger there. They should be leaving a door hanger. I can't say that it happens all the time, but there's an example on the slide of what they're there. There'll be a representative phone number they can get back, answer questions, ask questions, and meet and see if there's anything, if there's special concerns. Special concerns, we can note those right here. Crews see those as they get there. So embracing the technology, trying to get better. Used to be a piece of paper, they'd pick up their orders and they were out there. So now a lot more able to get to them in a timely fashion. We do take into account the trees, their growth rates. So we are looking at about a 4-year cycle. You're in the city, so our urban areas are on a 4-year rotation. We get out into our rural areas, we get into sometimes a 6 to 8 years. So, but in here, we got a lot of trees, a lot of big mature trees. And so we're looking those every 4 years. Yeah. Again, requesting a line clearance. So whether you're taking out a tree that's just in close proximity, and if you have any questions, that can be done through our customer service department. You can do that online through our customer website. I haven't actually tried that, but they tell me it works. So again, we'll come back out and we'll get that 10-foot away, a minimum of 10-foot away, overhang, things like that, just so it makes sure that it's safe, that a customer can take those trees down if they need to. And just looking at our maintenance cycle. So again, back to a 4-year cycle. The other thing that we do is a mid-cycle patrol. So where we're on a 4-year cycle, every 2 years, we're back out and we're looking for those things that might cause us problems, where those trees have broken, whether they've just grown back in because we had a lot of rain. And so we're looking for those things that are going to cause us problems. Typically we don't find a lot, but every now and then we find something, and again, we get back out, and if it's something that needs to be done, we'll take care of that on that mid-cycle. Again, our process, we plan it out ahead. We just trimming the trees that we need to trim to make sure that we're doing the best with the dollars that we have. We notify in advance. Crews should be doing a courtesy knock when they're out there in the yards, and a lot of times we have to, just because we have locked gates and we've got to communicate to get in. Trimming the trees and then back, and again, auditing. So yeah, that's about it on the tree trimming. Scott, you got some more?
Sure. See what's next. Thanks, Doug. So on to outage information. So obviously weather is the main cause, but we also have the squirrels in the trees, which you all see. So they get up there and then so between the two of them, I guess 70% historically is what is caused by the weather. And that was our July outage and a few of the outages here this past week with the storms. And then the wildlife, again, we have the way our circuits work is if a connection is made with a limb that blows onto the line or an animal touches the line, the breaker will trip real quick and let them get off the line, and then it'll close back in. And if they're still on there, it'll do that again. And then the third time, it'll stay open. So that's kind of how we give a chance for these small limbs and the rodents to move on, or to quickly burn off real quick, or really the wind blows it off. So that's kind of how our circuits are working to work with the weather and the wildlife. And then the predictive maintenance is just, again, more of what Doug was talking about, and Donnie with the outage with the computers. We do the DIMI 3 program, and we have a list of those, and when we hit 3 outages in a rolling 12-month period, then we're out there on that circuit and we're finding out what's going on. Is it tree related? Is it equipment related? Let's go figure that out. And so we send the crews out there, and that's on the predictive maintenance side. Let's see, the lateral conversions. Oh, yeah, Chuck, you did this great last week.
So to understand.
You are.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chuck. The ones we've done before, he's always introduced. He's left me out there this time. Chuck Tuttle, I'm this senior manager of Metro Operations. I'm stationed out of Johnson County. So you're right in the heart of my area. So
Can you also make sure you're speaking in the mic? Thanks.
you bet. Any better? Okay. So usage rates are based on overhead design. So a question that comes up each and every meeting we have is, okay, you're having so many problems with all these rodents, the tree limbs, all the issues. Let's bury that stuff. Let's get it underground. We can forget about it and life moves on. It's not exactly true. Some of our biggest outages lately have been mainline feeder cable locking out, causing big issues, causing big problems. So to just say we forget about it, that's not true. There's still maintenance, there's still problems, just different problems. So a little bit of cost put in this, and these numbers aren't right. So please don't come in next Monday, say, I want my power line buried for $7,000, because that's truly not the real amount, but it just kind of puts in perspective what the cost is. We just did a little analyzation. It was showing $27,000 for 5 houses. So you start going down through a block, multiplying that out, and look how quick it adds up. And that doesn't count the $2,000 going from the transformer to the house for each individual customer. So the idea that it would cost $7,000 is probably closer to 12 or 14, really and truly, in some of this rocky soil we got. So you start multiplying that out all by every house, every customer, it just gets exponentially so expensive that the customers would not be able to afford it. Because Evergy does not have that in their rates. So there's no way to recoup that. There's no way to put it out there. It would have to be put out in rates. And I couldn't even quantitate that number. It would be big. So any questions on the underground before we kind of clip? It's always a good discussion. We love it. And it would be so easy, to dig into it just a little bit further. When we put in new subdivisions, the developer's responsible for all the conduit and a lot of the heavy lifting. So those costs are instilled in the price of the lot. The developer's not absorbing it. He's passing it on. So whoever's buying the house is truly paying for it. Then of course we come in and put the power lines in and energize it. Something on the back end, Evergy's going to have to go out there and do it all. And then we've got to put those costs out there to be recouped, to charge through. So we'll look a little bit at the restoration process. Anybody had an outage lately? You bet. Sucks, doesn't it? I mean, it just really, nobody wants to be without power, but rest assured there is a process. We were talking about the AMI meters, that technology went into play several years ago, but as soon as that meter goes out of power, it sends a signal to us, and we know it. Now, that doesn't mean you all don't need to stop calling in and telling us. I think as you're calling in, you'll notice it will tell you whether we already know about it or not. However, continue to call, but that technology allows us to see who's out, and it starts escalating to the device that's out. So then we're looking at an outage management system to see what's the biggest bang for the labor. Where can we go get the most lights on the quickest? So with that, understand you may see a truck drive by and turn one block on, and you're an individual outage across the road. They're going to go on and get the most people on that they can. And then they'll circle back around and get those individual outages or the lesser outages as time allows. So it's not perfect, but there is a process. Now understand there's, social housing, there's emergency services. There are things that are in the hierarchy. It may be 1 meter that will take priority over a lot of other things. Your hospitals, your nursing homes, and things of that nature. So we'll roll right into some of the technology pieces we've seen. Has anybody seen the outage map? It's a great tool. You can look on there, you can see how big, if there's 1 spot on it in your area, if there's 10 spots, what Evergy's fighting. Rest assured,
At a certain point, we're gonna start calling more and more people in. We keep staffing on property 24/7. As we go overnight, it gets to be more of a minimum. But as we start rolling around to daybreak, those numbers go up and through our B and C shifts. So however, when you start to see these outages grow, we have an automated phone system that starts calling those linemen, dispatchers, whatever we need. They're called to come in. So to give a look, if there's one dot, if it's just yours, you may be the only person out. Continue, make sure you've called in. But globally, if you look at it and there's dots everywhere and you're seeing 100,000 people out of power, rest assured it could be a little bit. So if you don't have it, if you haven't downloaded that or the app, please do so. Check it out. Test drive it. If you don't have it, look at it on days that you don't need to use it or you're not out of power. Understand the functionality of it. So when you're having that irritating outage in the middle of the night, you know exactly how it works. So looking at that customer experience outage map, we talked earlier about relying more on technology. A lot of that's through automation of the system, putting smart devices downline. We started with meters. We put middle line devices in, downstream devices. That way we can turn people on and off to limit the outages and get people back on quicker. So in the end, it's going to take a truck to roll there and a line person to fix it, but we can limit that exposure. This is just a little bit of the technology piece we leaned on as far as computers, software, just the web traffic, the numbers. It's crazy. 21,000 downloads. I mean, that's huge. I'll roll right in. Who was here for the July storm? I was. I lived at Evergy for about 7 days and then about 12 hours a day for the next 10 days after that. So, the storm came through, I mean, we got so many people and there'll be some slides to show that. We had people upon people upon people trying to get things done, get everybody turned back on. But even after it was all done, we still continued to had to staff up and work around the clock to get the people that had their stuff tore up. If the service was tore off your house, your electrician had to fix that. So they're calling in, they're trying to get city approval. Some cities waived that, some city didn't as far as the inspection. So making sure that was all met, getting people turned back on. Let's face it, they'd been without power for 5, 6, 7, 8 days. They're ready to be out of the hotel back in their own property. Little picture, Kansas City. Of course, we all see it all the time, probably. So a spot, we hire a third-party weather company to give us updates. So you can see different triangulations on that, shows the different wind gusts that we had around the service area. And right here in our area, I mean, they were huge. They were 60, 70, 80 mile an hour wind gusts. You all seen the damage, you've seen the trees that tore down. Those things have been standing here a lifetime. With one swoop of Mother Nature, they were tore down. So a little bit of the timeline, we named it the squall, the storm. That it came in at the end of the day. It was just like any other day. Everything was fine. We heard there was weather coming out of Kansas, but then the wall cloud came into the city. I mean, we watched it like some dummies out there. We're just looking at it like, oh, doesn't that look cool? Well, then it hit and then start tearing stuff up. So, after the first day, we're working around the clock, working our tail off. It comes in, we're not going to get this by ourselves. So that's when we started reaching out to other utilities, other companies, and raising that manpower on property exponentially. I don't know, the team at one time, I think the numbers there, it's over 500 hotel rooms they were searching for. Well, so many people were without power, they were in the hotels. So we were having to find hotels, park people here, there, and somewhere else. But I mean, we finally got it. We finally got everybody a place to sleep for their rest. Most of the time, they were getting somewhere between 5 and 6 hours sleep and then just come right back out and do it again. So this was a staging area. We overtook the old Cerner property. I believe it's off Bannister and Hickman Mills, right in that area. A little bit of a video that Scott alluded to. It's just going to give some overhead shots. This doesn't do it any justice. This was after probably half the crews were already gone. That most of them were leaving out at daylight or just a touch after. These were These were some that were working some later shifts that hadn't quite got back in yet. So we're just trying to quantitate the massive storm that it was and all the people that we had here. A little more storm damage. Again, you all seen this. Now, Scott alluded to the distribution poles. These are transmission structures. These were some coming up from Wolf Creek, coming into the metro. Destroyed several of those huge structures. Those cranes just aren't sitting down here at ISSUANCE to come up and set those poles. We had to mobilize, get those here, get things done to get that station back online. So while groups of us were doing the distribution piece, there were also teams of us out doing the transmission structures. Let's face it, if that's down, we start pulling all this load back on, we're not going to have the generation to actually be able to turn everybody back on. A little bit more of the same. Of course, I mean, this is right here in your all's backyard. Broken poles all over the place, trees tore down. So I thought this was going to play, but I guess there we go. Okay. So we'll move past this. So this is one of, right? This is one of our key linemen out of our Johnson County Service Center. He lived here through that whole period. I mean, he was one of those that was only getting 5 or 6 hours a night of sleep, you know, with a 30-minute commute to and from work. It just, the dedication, everything they did, you know, nobody was going home. Everybody was in. It was a complete team effort to make things happen. I know people were mad, they were aggravated. How come my power's not on? How come this isn't happening? But rest assured, I mean, we were doing everything we could at the time. So mobilizing the whole laydown yard, we couldn't put that many trucks in hotel parking lots. We had to park the trucks there, bus them to and from their hotels, bring them in, feed them there. There just wasn't no place to feed them all. So for efficiency reasons, we fed them I wouldn't call it a hot breakfast. It was semi-warm, gave them a sack lunch and tried to feed them somewhat of a warm dinner. You start feeding that amount of people, trying to get that through, it just, you couldn't keep it hot. But they did very well in what they did. And in the end, kept the spirits up and worked very safe. So a little piece on the social media, you know, we go back to that technology piece. We had implemented the IVR, the automated phone answering system. Through that whole thing, we had 147,000 phone calls. There's no way that any amount of humans could have taken that again, we could have mobilized and could afford. So 75% were taken by the IVR, the rest were taken by a person. A little bit of information, contact information, I'm sure it's all readily available. There we go. I'll turn it back over to you for questions and answers.
Right, which I'm gonna turn around, but so ready to open it, Laura, to question and answers.
Yeah, just, I guess I was anticipating based on our previous conversations that you were going to share some information about specific circuits in
Sure.
mission and infrastructure work that has been done in the last 5 years or so.
Let me address those 2 circuits real quick.
Okay.
One more person, Daniel. Daniel, Daniel did all the troubleshooting for us this summer when those storms came through, and we had we still had some trickling outages following the storms, and City Hall would blink and the community center. And it turns out they're on 2 different circuits, and so we did a lot of diagnostics on that, and he can kind of give you a rundown on what we found and then what we planned on doing.
I'm Daniel Wachter. I'm distribution engineer. I cover JOCO, which for us is the northern part of Johnson County. So most of the outages this year, especially to this building, and then also the community center, were related to the overhead that runs about a block south of here through the backyards. That's what we consider the main line. So whenever a problem hits the main line, it ends up blocking out the entire circuit. So we have went through, and Doug could come talk about it, and they went through and aggressively trimmed that. It was about a month ago.
We finished about a month ago.
About a month ago, went through and aggressively trimmed that. The other issue we had was, so right now we're doing major upgrades to Roland Park substation, which pretty much feeds all of Mission. That's about a mile and a half northeast of here. That substation was built 70s, somewhere in there. So it's due for some pretty major upgrades. So right now they're going through and doing, there's, I think 16 circuits fed out of there. They're going and doing about 3 circuits at a time they have to take out while they replace all of the equipment inside the sub that feeds those. So one of the problem we had in some of the outages earlier is as those 3 circuits are out, you have to feed them from somewhere. So you end up tying 2 circuits together to feed that while they're doing the construction work. And that's why with a lot of the outages, the community center is actually on a different circuit than City Hall is. But that's the reason why for a lot of those outages, they were both out at the same time. It's because we had a large area served off one circuit while we're doing those substantial upgrades at Roland Park. But the gist of most of the outages, at least on this side of Mission, were due to the overhead line that runs about a block south of here. And was almost all vegetation related. Different limbs falling on that line.
Okay. I think, do you all have anything else before we open it up to questions? Sure.
Just a little bit on that. So back to what we were looking at earlier, the analytics of the problems. Of course, that was tree trimming. We were very reactive to that to get in and fix the issues. Right now we're looking at our 2024 budgets, what's going to be allotted for infrastructure improvements across our system. So to say we can tell you what we're doing, the projects that were tied into 23, you bet. Roland Park's probably your biggest thing to see here, and the tree trimming that went in with that. Looking off into 2024, what's it going to be? We've yet to get guidance from the board and the finance committee to see what we're going to do and where. So those projects are still coming into play. So, anything we could tell you would be a moving target into the future. So to balance that, we're doing everything we can. We don't want outages. We want reliability. Trust me, I don't want to be without power either. So again, we're looking anything we can. We're trying to let the information guide us where we need to go, whether that be proactively or reactively through the numbers. If it's hitting that DEMI list that he showed you, or there's also a semi report, whatever that is, okay, that switch is flipped. Find out what the problem is and let's come up with a solution and see if it can meet budget restraints, whether it be temporary or long-term. So I know that doesn't give you exact answers, but that's the business we're in. Everybody operates within a budget. What can we spend and what can we do where? Just our footprint's just a touch, just a little bit. Any more on that? Anyone?
Laura, did you have any other questions based on?
Before we open it up to
Yeah.
questions, I would like to just say a couple of things because, first of all, you're gonna make me put on my mean city administrator hat. I'm a little bit disappointed in the presentation. We had a pre-call meeting where we talked about specifically more of the mission-specific information that we know that you all have questions about, and then we know that many of the residents sitting here have questions about, and none of that was included. Rest assured, we'll follow up on that. We have already talked about, and as part of that conversation, for Scott and as appropriate other members of his team and I to meet at least quarterly to really begin to understand the things that we're seeing on the various circuits in Mission. I think, we all understand and appreciate the work that I felt like what we saw this evening was a commercial for Evergy, with all due respect. And I think we all appreciate the power and the service that you provide. And people really understand the response to wind and ice storms and those really significant events. The frustration occurs with multiple outages on blue sky days and where we just can't seem to get resolution for that. We respect budgets. We operate within a budget. We never have enough money in our own budget to accomplish all of the things that we want to accomplish. But what I think maybe, the rest of our time here is best spent at least sort of getting those questions out on the table. We'll make note of those and then we'll follow up and try to get some more specific responses in terms of the circuits. We have circuit maps for those circuits that feed the city. And at least in previous meeting several years ago with Evergy, we had at least an understanding of work that was planned out and infrastructure improvements on those various circuits. So we'll work to get that. We'll also make this presentation available online. We'll upload it to the packet or we can email that out. But I know that presentation didn't answer the questions that I was expecting, and I'm confident it didn't answer some of the questions that you're expecting and some of the residents were expecting. So I think we just open it up to that conversation and kind of see where we go from there.
Sure. And I guess to kick it off and along that point, we heard a lot, Scott, from your predecessor, Rebecca Galati, when she came to a prior community meeting over a year ago. I can't remember the exact timeline on that, in addition, just the sort of vegetation issues, there were a lot of aging infrastructure issues on the circuits itself impacting Mission beyond the power stations, talking about more localized transformers, degrading lines, things like that. And she said that Evergy was going to be bringing forward projects related to those improvements. I think we'd be looking to hear from you all and get more specifics on those plans. I know, for example, that you all replaced the pole in my backyard this summer, but she spoke a lot about the lines themselves and sort of the transformers, and I'm probably getting some of the technology wrong, but the bits and pieces beyond the substation. And so I think if we could hear from you now or as a follow-up, the specifics on those plans.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we did some work this summer in the city Mission, and then as Chuck alluded to, we have a plan for next year, well, 2024, sorry, this year. Those budgets still haven't been finalized, so I can't really tell you yet what those circuits are they're going to work on. When we do get those finalized, we'll sit down with Laura. We already have a meeting scheduled, and we can tell you then exactly what circuits we're going to look at in terms of upgrading. Doug I think he answered the tree trimming question. We've just got done doing the lines recently. So if there's any more tree trimming questions, we'll also cover those with Laura and any of those circuits that we have planned for working. So again, when those budgets are finalized, happy to sit down with the circuit maps and go over those.
Okay. And then sorry, go ahead.
We're by far not hiding anything. It's just, we're not going to give you wrong information to come back later and say, no, those budgets are cut. Just forget about all that. We want to give you something that's an outlook that this is what we want to do. Remember my commitment to say, I want things turned on, I want things to stay on. And we want that for all of Evergy. But we've got to look and turn, and we're at our constraints of our budgets. I keep saying that, but again, we've got to make sure the lights stay on and keep our customers happy. That's our goal. And I'm sorry for the disappointment, but when we don't have information, good sound information to bring to you, I'm not going to lead you in the wrong direction.
Sure. Well, I think getting more detailed information on what was done in 2023, for example, I understand you're going into the 2024 budget year, what was done in 2023, with respect to the grid impacting Mission, other than the substation and the vegetation sort of cycle.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. We can lay those out in maps.
Yeah.
And again, we'll go over that with Laura. Yep. We can share those.
And I think too, just an understanding of, you talk about the 4-year trimming cycle, but for example, the circuit that was trimmed extensively recently in our conversations was originally not scheduled for trimming until 2025. And so it was that conversation about the performance in looking at the number of outages in that rolling 12-month period that then caused them to go out and aggressively trim ahead of schedule. And one of the questions I asked on the call a week or so ago was, does that then kick that back into a 4-year cycle? And what they advised was, no, we'll be back out in that 2 years, kind of that mid-year cycle to look at that again. So I think that's sort of more of that granular understanding. I think one of the things that had been provided to us in the past was just the trimming schedule for the circuits within that serve Mission.
Or if it turned out that I think as you all have said, that was in fact a major problem. If you're doing these mid-cycle patrols, why wasn't that something that was caught on that mid-cycle patrol and corrected?
Right, so that circuit in particular, it was on a mid-cycle. And I actually personally walked that down and looked at things, and I wouldn't have expected anything to be as severe as it was to have those outages. I do believe that a lot of that is the residual from the July storms and just broken limbs and things that just kept falling out. So I know we had several outages that happened. I actually personally walked some of that out, or a good majority of that out, and it was nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that would be of concern at that point, just from a visual inspection. But then we had another. And I think that's where I made that decision to go ahead and proactively do that on that mid-year cycle and go ahead and fix that main line issue. Now, that does not switch that back from a 4 years out. No, we're going to come back again in 2 years. That should be back on our cycle in 2 years. We would go back, trim anything on that main line that needs to be trimmed, and picking up everything in the neighborhoods on that one also.
I guess why isn't the DIMI 3 program kind of filling the gaps on that? So why does it take us, having repeated follow-up and outreach as opposed to your own internal data saying, obviously something's highly unusual here, even if it passes the eye test, this isn't what we would expect to see? I guess, where's that proactivity piece?
I know
On the devices, yeah, I can't answer.
The reports. So historically, I would have to look back and see when it hit the DIMI 3 or the SIMI 6. And at that point, remember, the process is to send linemen out to look at it and evaluate it. If those are coming in, if there had been a car hit a pole, knocked the circuit out that would have caused it, those things are pushed back. Once we see that it was something that could not be fixed, those get pulled out. But we'd have to look, and I'm sure Donnie could see at what point that circuit hit a DIMI or SIMI number, just to
Yeah.
see what it was.
I think knowing that information for mission and your follow-up would also be really helpful.
Yeah.
And
So-
sort of where it stands against other circuits and how much worse or better, maybe
You-
surprisingly better
you
are
bet.
the mission circuits.
You bet. So you look back at the storm, I'm sure those circuits were out with everything else that hit.
Sure.
And at what point in time did those hanging limbs, and we've seen them all over the metro like that, by the way, limbs that didn't quite break loose, they're hanging there and then they end up coming through and tearing stuff down. Doesn't make it any better for anybody else that incurred a power outage. But those things started to fall, and then the more wind we got occasionally, that would make it come into play. So no excuses, but to see if you want that answer, we'll be more than happy to get it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's good information that should be out there and readily available.
And then, yeah, Trent, you got something?
I just had a question for the team. Thanks for being here.
Mhm.
I would like to be able to pass on to constituents a little more about what goes into the calculation of the estimated time of restoration on the power map. I know
Okay.
there's been times before that figure has maybe been a little more optimistic than the
Mhm.
reality. And so
Yep.
could you just speak a little bit more about?
So a little
some
bit of that, it comes from the feedback from the crews that are there. And a little bit of analytics, but them giving their best guess. And, sometimes they're a little more hopeful than what reality truly is. Some stuff we had out of Roland Park a couple Fridays ago, multiple circuits locked out. We put a time frame out there, and I think we got pretty close with the end one. Some people come back on sooner. On the average, we're pretty good, but you do have those ones that are just out there. You think a transformer outage. If we get there and it's just a squirrel or a limb on the line or something like that that's happened, we're probably close. If they get there and that transformer's bad and they looked at the old time, they're going to be off. It's not going to be even close because there's going to be a crew come in, backyard machine. A lot of manual labor goes into that to make that happen. So a lot of it's feedback from the crew that shows up on site. We look at it once we assign it, travel times and all that. And maybe we are assuming the best. We try to give it an objective view, but if things go wrong, those times go up.
Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, I think that illustrates kind of maybe, or at least what it feels like is going wrong in a lot of mission is we get these situations where, say we have a big outage, you're working at the substation. Okay. Now there's, a smaller chunk of the neighborhood is still out and you've got to go fix that. And then a smaller chunk. It feels like we have a lot of those pockets that are just hanging out there at sort of the end of the tree, right, of all these lines that experience just long outages. And and often, take big hits during storms or during, what, like Laura said, the blue weather, the blue sky days. Besides just looking at the devices and adding more isolation where you can, we're looking at reconfiguring circuits that are just, set up in a way where it's like this pocket of this neighborhood is always going to get these 8, 12-hour outages.
So,
I feel like we get a lot of that.
so to speak, like on the rear lot main feeder was talked about just a little bit ago. We try not to put those in backyards because of the hardest, longest restoration times. You put something in the backyard as outage times go up exponentially, maybe tenfold. Move them out to the street where you can drive to, you can get trucks to them. We look at that, but once a main feeder's in the backyard, you're not going to get it in the front yard. We do look at reconfigure. Donnie talked about that earlier, splitting circuits in half. So cutting the exposure. So breaking it in half and feeding it from 2 ways. That way, if there is a problem, only half the customers are out. So that's looked at, analyzed, and put with some sort of cost justification and limits. But yes, that is looked at. Now, we're setting in a system that's been around for a while. So balancing that, trying to fix stuff, replace stuff where we can. The stuff we were talking about earlier with the transformers, at what point do we continue to add load to these transformers through EVs or different pieces? Do they hold the wires, the secondaries? It's a good question. I don't know. We can't replace them all. We can't afford it all. So we're trying to optimize where we're putting those dollars and cents where it makes the most sense.
Okay, I did have a follow-up. One of you, I can't remember now, who talked about prioritization and hospitals and things like that. And
Maybe.
I thought it was maybe you.
Yep.
And that obviously makes the most sense, but I don't think we've heard anything from you all in terms of prioritizing government operations, so with some of these extended outages, one, our community center is a heating and cooling center, depending on the season, where vulnerable residents would need to be able to go, but if it's out, that doesn't help us.
bet.
And same thing, we have emergency operations, our police department within this facility. And I don't think we've heard anything about government operations being prioritized. So I don't know if that's something
Yeah,
you guys
that
could look
as
at.
long as that's inputted in the system as such, and I can't speak for that here, but I'm sure Scott would know.
Yeah, sorry. Mayor, you guys are tier 1, along with all the other cities that
Okay.
have. So everybody's a tier 1. Again, we start with emergency hospitals, the critical customers that we already have on a short list. And then we go into our tier 1s, and you guys are a tier 1. You're alongside the tier 1s of our largest customer, largest users, along with all the other cities. And then we go to tier 2 and tier 3 and then residents, I think.
Okay.
I assumed it was that way, but again, not to send information
Thanks.
that wasn't 100% correct.
Yeah, Debbie?
Just a quick comment. I have a personal connection. My son was a lineman and was electrocuted in 2016. He worked for Par Electric. He was fine. He's okay now. He's a superintendent for Southern California Edison, but I have a total appreciation for electricity. As disappointed as I was when the electricity was off, I was joyous when it came back on.
Right.
I don't know how much more dependent we can be on electricity
Yes.
when it's governing everything in our lives.
Everything we do in our lives, including charging our cell phones. I mean, it just,
But the response time was amazing. I have to check on people that are older that can't get out and, if they need to go out to eat or something, I check on people. And I thought the response time, they kept calling us back and telling us what's going to happen. And, this is a time where a lot of people in an older generation, even older than me, don't have cell phones, and they really become isolated in what they can do because the telephones don't work. So anyway, I thank you.
gotcha. Well, thank you for that comment. And again, that's when we're at our best. And I mean, it just sounds like what I'm hearing, we need to communicate some more information, and maybe do a little better in pockets. And I mean, I'm here to do that. We're here to do that, as a whole. So, let's make sure we're communicating. If we don't have good information, we'll have something. But it goes back to not over-promising and under-delivering. If I'm going to tell you something, we're going to do it. And I'm going to know I can do it.
Yeah, I would echo what Ben said about some of those smaller circuits and the frustration, related to that. I don't know if it's feasible to make the circuit size is more balanced, so that some people aren't always last on the
Right.
list for restoration. I mean, these guys know I was all joking about it. I think I was one of the very last people in the metro to get power back in July. I was the last in this group because I'm on one of those smaller circuits. And so I know that is a particular point of frustration for our residents because like Ben alluded to, I think we have several of those areas around the city where we have folks who are 12 houses. And so you're always the last
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, the thousands, the 500s, the 200s, they're taking the priority.
Did I see a hand down there? Yeah, Hillary?
Thank you. I I can't speak for all constituents in Ward 1, which is the northernmost portion of Mission, but we typically have a pretty good power situation up north, and that's I know everybody in the crowd is going to get up and say, I live in Ward 1, and I'll say, I stand corrected. But that being said, and I haven't heard a whole lot of feedback from folks. So I haven't experienced some of the same power issues that I know that the southern portion of Mission has. And so as you guys go back and have those budget conversations, I think a lot of the frustration could be really alleviated if we could just look at some really targeted upgrades, because I think it really is concentrated to some of the southern portions of Mission. Because again, I'm not trying to speak for anyone. I just don't think we experience it widespread, maybe that, in a way that you might be interpreting it tonight. I really think it's heavily in the mid to southern section of Mission, and some targeted investments in your budget process as much as you can advocate for us. We promise we will start leaving you alone. So thank you.
Like I said, you're in the heart of my area. I'm advocating for you. Trust me. I'm on your side of this. I want this to be a pleasant meeting, one where we're coming in and it all is great information. Maybe not tonight, but maybe next time. Let us work on it. It's a good venue to talk about. But as you talk to your constituents, urge them to call in and have that conversation with us there as well. You all talking about widespread areas. Okay, that's great. But if they're having that individual piece, call in and complain. It will get to me one way or another. They're calling to you to tell you about it. Make sure they're calling to tell us about it too. Vent their frustrations. That's what they're there for. That's what we're there for. So again, more than happy to have this conversation at this level because it's good.
Mary, did you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so I think I'm one of the more southern houses.
Uh-oh, you're it's out on
Yeah,
the
that
side.
Hillary's talking about. Yeah, I've personally watched like multiple transformers explode like
Yep.
from my house. I just had a pole replaced as well, which also resulted in, I mean, I understand, obviously you have to turn off power to replace a pole, but things like that. I guess my question is, I know that there's an opportunity on Evergy's website to report possible vegetation issues. How long of a timeline, from us putting in a request to have someone to come out and look at that? Are we getting someone to actually come out and look at that? I have noticed, I think we put in a request the moment we moved in basically, which was 6.5 years ago. And it took, again, that was 6.5 years ago. So I know things are probably different now, but just curious how long it takes to get someone to kind of monitor that.
I'll let Doug speak to that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's his forte.
And you're referring to just a customer request for tree trimming or to look at things. We're trying to get on those as fast as we can. The volume that comes in, I'm going to guess that sometimes we're 2 to 3 months out of looking at some of those. We will try to prioritize those based on the notes that we get. If it's something that looks to be more of a priority, we raise those up on the list. But a lot of times we get these limb online. We don't know if that's on a cable line or that. So we do try to prioritize those by the severity of those if we can.
So it helps also to just be very detailed in those.
If you, the more detail is better, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I continually get those, and especially when it comes to winter time, trees near the lines. Well, trees near the lines, if it's not an outage, we do have to prioritize those by outage. So we are starting to look at those, but yeah, I am pushing harder to get those on timely, but there's times where we do get behind on some of those. So if we've got any specifics, I can definitely look into those.
Great. No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Brian?
I experienced extremely similar issues with that, where I had some residents kind of come up to me and prep for this meeting because we had conveniently lost power last week. And the trees over lines that go, it's not the street poles, but it's the ones that go back into the yards. It's not pole to house still, it is still pole to pole. Yeah, we, my neighborhood in particular, and a lot of my residents have a lot of overgrowth over those, and similar feedback. They'll put in the request, but we just don't know. And to us, it feels as though it just kind of goes into the void and we never hear back.
Okay.
So even if the improvement is just letting us know where we sit in the priority would be a huge improvement.
Okay, and when you talk those lines, you're talking the tree trimming and then going back in there and trees that are over the.
Yeah.
Probably is our secondary lines, and again,
Yeah.
those are not as high on the priority list because they do serve fewer customers. We're still trying to get those main lines and those bigger ones. And unfortunately, those do come down a little bit, there, but most of the time, it's usually the tree failures that cause those to go down. But we can definitely get that communication back out to the customers. Perfect.
Cheryl, did you have a comment? We are allowing for council comments, and then Emily, did you have some online comments you were going to read off, and then we'll open it up to the group?
Yes, thank you. I have William Rudolph. He says, I live in Countryside. I just counted up through my phone and email, and in 1 year period from December 2022 to January 2023, I have had 7 power outages. Granted, 2 of those were more severe storms, but that averages to just about every month and a half. That seems very excessive. Then I have Emily James, who I believe to be a Mission resident, but she does not say so explicitly. Any plan to trim the line that runs along the drainage ditch that runs to west of City Hall toward Lamar? I don't know if we can get that back from you. And then, so again, that's just along the drainage ditch that runs to west of City Hall towards Lamar Street Avenue. And then Lindsay Mayfield also doesn't mention her residency. Will the tree trimming work that was done just south of City Hall behind the houses prevent the outages we've experienced on blue sky days that the city administrator referenced?
We can hope.
The last question, and those other two, I mean, at least one address, we could have that before we leave, or at least get it sent to us. We hope, not to build or steal your comment, but there's always going to be outages. The system opens up when there's a problem. But we went in there and made the best valiant effort we could to make it to where trees along that line are not causing the problem. That's what we look for. That's what we did. But understand that main line feeds on towards these homeowners' houses, and there's multiple switches, multiple devices. Yes, it should, but there's never a guarantee to be without power. And I don't like saying that, but it's true. What other limb is hanging somewhere, or what other car is about to run off the road that's going to cause an outage? What other piece is out there? We think we did a better job to ensure we're not going to have as many outages, or we wouldn't have done it. So rest assured, we're trying to do the best we can. And we think we did in that spot. And we hope Doug gets back on the 4-year system and then completes this here in a couple years, whenever it comes back in play, to help reiterate or lower some of those tree trimming problems.
Laura, for our public comment in the room here tonight, did we have a sign-up sheet, or we just?
I didn't ask for
Molly?
sign up because we
Okay.
ran out of time between meetings. I would
Okay.
just add before
Yeah.
we ask, and you can do your regular spiel. Mr. Rudolph, who I believe commented online, also sent an email indicating that he, as a result of the power outages, I mean, he's ordered a generator to be installed next
Yeah.
month at the cost of about $12,000.
There's been several in our neighborhood.
And I know that in our conversations several years ago with the Millhaven subdivision in particular, there was sort of that just question of, it's easier for me to invest 10 or 12, and I was thinking about that as you were presenting the cost for undergrounding, recognizing that's an expensive proposition, but $10,000 or $12,000 for a generator to be able to have that reliability is an expense for the community as well.
Yeah, and we've heard from others as well. I mean, City Hall, you've probably heard about the impacts to equipment at our community center. We've received equipment, damaged equipment as a result of the outages and power surges, and on the public post for this meeting, I know one of our businesses, Keith and Associates Dentistry, said that they had several pieces of equipment damaged as a result of outages and power surges as well. So
So-
definitely the expenses add up.
Well, no, they do add up. I have a generator myself. I do, you know, it goes back to reliability. It's not guaranteed. We try to keep it on 99% of the time. My piece, whenever everybody's out of power, I have to go to work. So if my house is out, I have to go to work, and the wife and the kids need to be able to sit comfortably. So that's my assurance there. But on the other side of it, do I want every customer going out and buying a generator? Heavens no. You know, the piece, where's this at? What has happened? You know, looking at the data, you know, we know the causes of every outage. It's documented somewhere in the OMS system. So I understand their frustrations. You know, looking at it, if you want to have that guarantee, you know, that's okay. I had to have that guarantee. So I could get in my truck and go to work. That's why I had it. But should they have to, you know, that's a balance. And again, we can look at those addresses and see what the cause is. You know, we'll never be able to combat every outage. We won't. We can't afford it. Even if we bury them, power still goes out. So.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I think we're gonna allow for hands in the audience. I'm just gonna go front to back on the right, and then front to back on the left. So anyone over here on the right-hand side have a question or a comment they want to make?
Do you want them to come up?
Do you want to raise your hand and then come up to the podium and state your name and residence? Yeah, Sherry, come on up. And just state your name and residence for the record.
Sherry Foreman, and I live at 6447 Maple Drive in Millhaven. We have been residents of Mission since 1972. For 23 years of that, we lived in Alta Vista Heights in Debbie Kring's neighborhood. We had one power outage, one. And it didn't even last a day, but there was a terrible ice storm in the area. And I don't remember the years. I know I had a little one at home. But that was one in 23 years. We moved to Millhaven. We bought the house in 95, moved in 96. And this October snowstorm was our introduction to chronic power outages in Millhaven. Chronic. There's no other word to describe them. We were told during that storm that we were first off where we were geographically and last on. Nobody wants to hear that. And nothing has changed in that. And yes, Evergy did come through and they did a lot of work, and that's wonderful. But we have multiple blue sky outages. And the mayor is my neighbor, and she is in a text feed of some highly irate Evergy customers and Mission residents. She takes it all with grace and keeps us up to date as she can. But something must be done. I don't know what it would be, but something has got to be done to that area. My husband is now on oxygen 24/7, and he's housebound. So we filled out, and I hope you can answer this question. We filled out all the paperwork, sent it to the doctor sent it in. The first time he was not deemed to be on your emergency list. The second time he was, but we were told, don't give out this highly secret number. But we were also told, it really doesn't do you any good. So why do you have that service? And what good does it do me to call this confidential number? And I'll sit down.
Okay, and I'm gonna get some information from you before
Yeah.
the night's over.
One-
Okay, I have no idea what the circumstance was and what that number was, but I'll get some information from you, right? And I'll make sure that you are on our emergency contact list. So yeah, we have a dispatch center that obviously is 24/7, and we do have our tier ones. They have that number to go in there directly. They also have the number to reach me. The tier ones that I work with, which are the cities here in Johnson County, they can reach me anytime an outage occurs that they need, that they haven't had a response on. And after hours, there's one of us, one of my counterparts on duty for a week solid after hours. So that contact is still out there. I think Laura has that, and all the cities have that, and we can reach that. But the emergency list, I need to make sure you're on it. So I'll work with you after the meeting. Oh, perfect. Okay, good. I'll see if I can get some information from that.
All right, next hand over. Any other hands over on this side? I see Jackie. Come on up. And I will just give a reminder, I forgot before Sherry, but if everyone could leave their in their comments at 3 minutes, that would be great. I think you did, but I forgot to give the official reminder, so I'm giving it now. Yep, go ahead.
I'm Jackie Gamison. I live at 5717 West 61st Terrace. My husband and I moved into our home on 61st Terrace, just east of Woodson in 1975, a long time ago. In February of 2002, we experienced our first power outage, and that happened to most of the metro area when we had that major ice storm. Well, it was 5 days without power, and periodically after that, we continued to have some outages during the storms. But since January of 2019, when we had a 4-day outage in sub-zero temperatures, we have had 16 power outages. 6 of those have been in the last year. And we're not the only home losing power in our neighborhood. The other 19 homes served by the spur off the power line along Woodson are also struggling to survive these outages. These 19 homes are on the south side of 61st Terrace and the north side of 62nd Street from Woodson to Knoll. The neglected 19. Right Tree did do some work, and now I understand it was because of that main line. I assume that is the one that runs east to west between Lamar and Knoll, just off of 61st Terrace.
He's not
Well, anyway, they they did the work on the north side of the street, and here we are sitting on the south side. No work, but I understand why not now. But there is a service line and the power poles along Woodson. They're from 61st Street to 62nd Street. They have been spliced back together so many times. They are fragile, a gust of wind, a little rain, and we are without power. The 19 homes, maybe it's 12 hours, maybe it's 3 to 4 days. But that was 6 times this past year. And I don't understand why they don't address strengthening that service line if it interrupts service for a small number of homes, the length of time it would take to replace that line, as opposed to having people come out 6 times a year to address the matter. I do have to say that with the investment of a 9,000 watt generator, my husband and I have insured ourselves against medical, physical, and financial losses from the power outages, but that does not help our whole neighborhood, nor does it help Mission's carbon footprint if we are all running generators. Thank you.
All right, yes, in the back row, I think I saw a hand. And state your name and city of residence.
Yes, Bob Sutrick, 6209 West 62nd Street in Mission. Our area right there at Lamar, I'm at the very end of the street on 62nd Street. And I believe this is true, and you probably can back me up, but I think our power has gone out more than 20 times in the last 2.5 years. And I think people have used the word blue sky. I can say it's happened. There's no reason, no wind, no rain, no snow, no ice, and the power goes out. I've seen the transformer blow quite a few times. I don't know if a transformer gets damaged when that happens, but it's had its fair share. I was going to also ask about the 4-year cycle. Has that historically been what we've done in the past? Has it always been 4 years or was it a different cycle in the past?
We can ask the Evergy representative to speak to that. Do you have any other comments to make? And then we'll have him address that.
Yeah, I got just a couple more. And if we see something, a branch or something on the power line, and we call it in, and it's cut down, are we responsible for cleaning up afterwards? I've run into that before.
We'll have them address that as well. Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't realize these squirrels were a problem, so I'll start chasing.
All sorts of trouble with squirrels. Yeah. Come on back up.
All right, so addressing the 4-year cycle, and yes, that has been the norm, as on the 4-year cycle. I would have to go back to make sure if that actually is what it has been. And the record should show that, so I can check on that. But yeah, that's where we'd be at, unless we have something where we have multiple outages, we have something that would push us to go sooner than that. And sometimes that does happen, whether that's the regrowth, whether that's a storm and the breakage like we've experienced. Your question on the cleanup, if it's an outage, our priority is that we are trying to get the power back on. And so we're going to cut what we need to get the power on. And then we're going to leave that limb there and move on to the next one. So yes, we are leaving that for the customer. And if there is a request from the customer, then that is also, the agreement is if we're doing this as a trim for safe, that is, the customer is taking care of the debris on that also.
So if someone who is unable to do that for health or ability reasons, would they need to call that in, or it's still
They
on
could
them?
still call it in and we'll
Okay.
come back and investigate.
Come back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But if we are doing for restoration purposes, we are leaving the debris there so we can move on quickly to the next one and get to the next one.
Great. Any other hands on this side of the room? All right, we'll move over on this side. Any comments or questions on this side of the room? I think, Emily, you said we had a couple online clarifications or follow-ups.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. Emily James just wanted to clarify the address associated with the previous question about the drainage running towards Lamar. The address, if it helps you, is 6150 West 61st Street. Her backyard is up against the drainage ditch, and there are several large trees near the lines. Again, just she's asking about plans to trim.
And I'll take that one and I'll look into that one.
Okay, thank you. And then Lindsay Mayfield, who had previously commented, just has an additional comment. Our daughter was born 5 weeks premature on November 9th. She spent 15 days in the neonatal ICU and came home the day after Thanksgiving. A week after she came home, we woke up in the middle of the night to realize our power was out on a day with no inclement weather, storms, or freezing temperatures. One of our major concerns when leaving the NICU was keeping our daughter's temperature up, so you can imagine the stress we were under when the power went out. The initial estimate was 2 hours to restoration, then another 2 hours, then another. In the end, our power was out for 10 hours. I want to put a face to the importance of the accuracy of those restoration estimates. Had we known it would be 10 hours, we would have left immediately to go to my parents' house. Instead, we kept waiting for restoration based on the timelines provided by Evergy. Meanwhile, we had to hold our daughter to our bodies to make sure she was warm and warm her bottles in the same way. She says, we also had to worry about our supply of breast milk in the fridge and freezer. Again, having an accurate restoration estimate would have helped with this immensely. We are one of the homes along those power lines that run through the tree line, 5902 West 61st Terrace. We so appreciate all the efforts Evergy has gone to, but for us, being honest about restoration timelines is crucial to keeping our daughter healthy. Okay.
Sure, if you have something to add, by all means.
Not a lot to add. Of course, I don't know the individual outage. Of course, I'm not gonna have that in my head, but what we spoke to earlier, those things changing and the feedback we get from the field. If something they thought fixed it, didn't fix it. You know, again, I can't speak to that, but we have seen those outage times go out, and it's just because new information comes in or information changes. What we thought probably was a transformer outage rolled up into something that wasn't. And then once you start to mobilize and bring large crews in, you know, they're an hour away from the show up from their house to the show up. By the time they mobilize, get there and start changing things and doing things, those times start to add up. But I totally get her frustration. My wife would be wringing my neck in a similar situation.
All right, any other hands from the audience? Seeing none, any final comments or questions from council? Yeah, Cheryl?
You know, I'm really surprised. You have so many data analytics. Power BI is a very powerful tool. And now you're saying these people have laptops, you know, in their hands rather than bringing a paper back. So I would like to really see what your strategy is for improving this, because I've got residents sitting here that've been here from 75, 2002, didn't really have problems. So what's changed? I think that's what I'm having trouble wrapping my head around. What has changed when you have the most powerful technology tools versus paper and pencil coming back to the office?
Yep. So we're going to take the addresses that we have. I mean, it's good information. We're going to go back and we're going to look, we're going to mine the data, and see, you know, what our system says. You know, that's just short term. You know, where were the problems? What were they? Were they the feeder problems where we had underground lockout, or was it a substation transmission? I mean, there's all sorts of problems. Still doesn't explain away the person was out without power. Doesn't get rid of their frustration. Understand, I'm new to this side of the state. I was just on the other side of the state line 3 weeks ago. Rest assured, we didn't have near these types of issues. We had issues, but nothing like this. So we're going to look at it, and we're going to see if we can get our arms wrapped around what's going on. So not looking for a pass, not looking for a honeymoon period, nothing like that. But just trying to get the information, get it locked in and see where things are.
I
When can we-
appreciate that, and I'd like to see actionable data.
Yeah, I was going to say along those lines, when can we expect another update from you all that will show more of that action plan and your analysis of mission specific data, and are we out of the norm, and what's the plan to fix that?
Yeah, we have a meeting scheduled in early April, but let us kind of follow up with each other and kind of see what we anticipate bringing back.
Great. Yeah, Hillary?
Yeah, just one final comment. I'm really surprised at the amount of outages that some of the residents have shared. That is, I'd be right there with you if I was experiencing that in our part of the city. So again, I'll just reiterate what I shared earlier. It sounds like some really targeted investments could really just make all the difference, especially in Millhaven and Countryside, where we have a lot of seniors, we have a lot of young families, clearly. And just thinking about those vulnerable populations, but also those are some of the most beautiful neighborhoods in all of Mission. And, you know, the last thing I want to hear about is somebody moving out of Mission because they, you know, and moving out of this, you know, fantastic neighborhood that I'd love to live in, you know, just because they can't keep their electricity. Yeah. So anyways, just some more personal thoughts, but yeah, thanks.
All right, well, thank you all for coming out tonight, and I know we'll be in touch. All right, we do not have any items related to the issuance of notes or bonds this evening, so we will move into our consent agenda. Our consent agenda has 6 items tonight. Our council committees met on January 10th and fully discussed each of these items. The committees agreed that the items listed on our consent agenda are routine enough to be considered under a single motion. If a council member or member of the public would like an item removed from the consent agenda, they may request that at this time. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, items 4A through 4F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Robin, please call the roll.
Loudon. Yes. Schmidt.
Aye.
Josie.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Thomas. Yes. Representative Davis.
Yes.
Kring.
Aye.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we will now move into public comments. This is for if any members of the public would like to make a comment on items that are not included on tonight's agenda, now would be the time. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comments verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to come to the lectern to make your comments. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. If I need to confirm something that may have been difficult to hear, I will ask for clarification. Do we have any public comment? Any online, Emily? All right, next will be items from our planning commission, but we do not have any items coming forward from the planning commission for consideration this evening. So next, we will move into our committee reports. Councilmember Ryherd, will you please provide a report from the Finance and Administration Committee?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Finance and Administration Committee met on January 10th and considered two items. The meeting minutes were approved under the consent agenda. Governing body compensation adjustments will be considered under the regular agenda this evening. Section 115.60 of the Mission Municipal Code establishes compensation for the governing body. The code also outlines that council compensation will be reviewed annually at the first regularly scheduled meeting in January. The compensation structure for elected officials varies widely from city to city throughout Johnson County. Recent council discussion focused on establishing salaries, which would encourage diversity in those choosing to file for elected office in order to reduce potential barriers to entry because of financial childcare or other related issues. The council ultimately elected to revise the current code to provide for increases in the salaries of the governing body annually commensurate with percentage increase given to employees in the meets expectation category. The merit matrix used for employees is reviewed and developed carefully each year based on mission-specific goals and current financial situation. In January 2023, this resulted in a 6% increase to governing body salaries, bringing council salaries to $4,452 annually and the mayor's salary to $12,720 annually. Following the recommendations outlined in the current code, this would adjust salaries for the mayor to $13,292 annually and for council members to $4,652 annually. Mayor, I move the compensation for the governing body to be adjusted by 4.5% effectively February 1st, 2024 in accordance with the provisions of section 115.6060 of the Mission Municipal Code.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Robin, please call the roll.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Loudon.
Yes.
Josie.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Thomas.
Yes.
Kring.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Loudon, will you please provide a report from the Community Development Committee?
The Community Development Committee also met on January 10th and considered 6 items: the meeting minutes, Black and McDonald contract, Public Works consulting contract with Katigon Consult, LLC, MFAC Splashpad refresh, MFAC picnic table replacement, and Waterworks Park inspection services were approved under the consent agenda. No items will be considered under the regular agenda this evening, and that concludes my report.
All right, great. We do not have any unfinished business tonight, so we will move into our new business. We do have one item of new business this evening, which is a resolution updating bank signatories at Security Bank. Ms. Randall, can you please provide a report about this item? Got to give you a last hurrah.
Yes, very related to the special presentation you saw earlier. We have reason to update our signatories for our bank accounts. So this is a housekeeping item just to make sure we are current and covered with good coverage for each of our city accounts.
All right, do we have any questions for Emily or comments?
Good job.
All right, thank you. All right, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council approve the resolution authorizing certain signatories for a City of Mission checking account.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, Robin, please call the roll.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Loudon.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Josie.
Aye.
Thomas.
Yes.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we will now move to comments from the city council. This is an opportunity for comments from our council members. Does anyone on council have something they'd like to share this month? Yeah, Debbie?
This is just a reminder that tomorrow evening, Thursday, January 18th, we will hold a Ward 3 meeting at the Community Center. Brian and I are welcoming all who want to come, and we'll be at 7 o'clock. See you there.
Yeah, Hillary?
Just wanted to share that Trent and I will have a Ward 1 meeting on February 8th. We moved it from an earlier date on February 8th, 6 o'clock, Community Center.
Okay, great. Yeah, Ben?
Kudos as always to Public Works for snow and ice clearance and salting. It's been a pleasure to live in Mission and when the weather is bad and just on that front. And yeah, I hear from friends in other parts of the metro that don't have it nearly as nicely. So we appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, next we have our council committee liaison reports. These reports allow the entire governing body to stay up to date with the various activities of the boards, commissions, and committees. First will be council members Kring and Thomas for sustainability.
Just a quick update. Since I'm going to be transitioning off of sustainability, I sit on a government advisory commission for the Environmental Protection Agency, and our current issues involve climate adaptation at the local level. So when I get additional information in the next meeting we hold, I will continue to forward information onto the Sustainability Commission liaisons.
Perfect. Anything from this last meeting you or Hillary want to share?
I couldn't be at the last meeting.
Okay. Any
Sorry.
updates, Debbie?
They just said, thanks for our work and goodbye.
All right. Thanks and bye. Got it. So next we have council members Loudon and Ryherd for Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission.
Yeah, so they had an extended meeting to kind of discuss what they are looking to as a commission, bring forward to council for us to kind of focus on in the next year. Won't spoil anything. They're still kind of in discussions with all of that, but it was a really good conversation. I think that they have a lot of things that honestly align with what we're wanting, and so it'll be good to kind of sync up and hear what they have to say. And then I don't know if we'll talk about this later, but the groundbreaking for Waterworks Park rescheduled for January 23rd at 4:30. Great. Yep. That's my
Great.
update. Thanks.
Perfect. And now we'll hear an update from Councilmember Boltinghouse on Mission Magazine editorial board, although I think that meeting may have been canceled. Is
Yeah,
that
not much
right?
of an update.
Okay.
But we'll
Next
miss that
month.
group. I will miss that group.
And so finally, it's Councilmember Chosey with Family Adoption Committee.
Yeah, I've had nothing new to report either. I've been under the weather, so
Great.
that's it.
No problem. Okay, so this evening, we do have several appointments to consider. We will begin with the assignment of new council, commission, and committee liaisons. So every 2 years, new liaison appointments are determined based on interest from our council members. Beginning in 2024, liaisons to the Sustainability Commission will be council members Boltinghouse and Loudon. To the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission will be council members Kring and Schmidt. To the Mission Magazine editorial board will be council members Ryherd and Chosey, and to the Family Adoption Committee will be council member Carpenter Davis. So we did try to mix things up and move people off of the boards and commissions that they were previously on, so we can get everyone's perspective and get everyone exposure to all of our different boards and commissions. So we look forward to keeping the lines of communication open with our volunteer committees and commissions, and thank you all for agreeing to serve as in your new liaison spots. And then next, I put before you the appointment of Kevin Schmidt, Ward 3, for the Planning Commission with a term expiring December 31st, 2025. Commissioner Schmidt will transition off of his role with the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission and fill the spot on the Planning Commission created by Councilmember Schmidt's transition to council. Yes, similar names, very confusing. We thank Commissioner Schmidt for continued interest in volunteering his time to the city of Mission. Is there a motion?
Yes, on the question of Schmidt and Schmidt. Mayor, I move the city council uphold the appointment of Kevin Schmidt to the Planning Commission with a term expiring December 31st, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Robin, please call the roll.
Kring.
Aye.
Chosey.
Aye.
Loudon.
Yes.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Thomas.
Yes.
Carpenter Davis. Schmidt.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, next we have the appointment of a number of city officials. These appointments are called for in our ordinances and are considered annually. So I put before you tonight the following for appointment: Keith Drill as municipal court judge, and Jeffrey Austin, David Bell, and Peter Simonson as municipal court judges pro tem. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the appointment of Keith Drill as municipal court judge and Jeffrey Austin, David Bell, and Peter Simonson as municipal court judges pro tem.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Robin, please call the roll.
Thomas.
Yes.
Chosey.
Aye.
Loudon.
Yes.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And finally, each year we appoint third-party advisors and consultants who assist us on various projects throughout the year. So I put before you tonight the following for appointment: Gilmore and Bell Bond Counsel, Ellers Inc. Financial Advisor, Stinson LLP, and a Kruslik Land Use Attorney. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the appointments of Gilmore and Bell for bond counsel with a term expiring January 15th, 2025. Ellers Inc. as a financial advisor with a term expiring January 17th, 2025. And Stinson LLP Anna Kruslik as Land Use Attorney for the City of Mission.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
We're losing Pete Heaven, correct?
That is correct. And Anna is here tonight. If you want to come up and introduce yourself and correct me on probably mispronouncing your last name, even though you told me how to pronounce it.
I've been used to it my entire life. So yes, my name is Anna Kirstelich. I'm Winston LLP. I've been doing government work for, it's been a long time, longer than I'd like to admit. I've been with the firm since 2016, but even before that, I was in-house at the Unified Government. So I've been in experience with economic development projects, and then I joined the firm, and of course, I started taking over some municipal law practices of some senior partners who were retiring. And I absolutely love this area of law and land use, and development work I find it very exciting, and I look forward to the opportunity to get to know all of you, and happy to answer any questions anytime.
And you have been the city land use attorney and city attorney for some other cities in Johnson County as well, right?
Correct. I'm city attorney for Mission Hills. I'm zoning counsel for Fairway. I'm also city attorney for Tonganoxie. And then this will be, an additional land use
Great.
appointment.
Any questions for Anna? All right. Thank you, Anna.
Thank
Glad to
you.
have you. Robin, please call the roll.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Loudon. Yes. Josie.
Aye.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Thomas.
Yes.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Next, Laura, do you have any items you would like to share with the city council tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I know Robin mentioned to me today she didn't have any business updates, so we don't have anything to cover there. Councilmember Ryherd did mention the groundbreaking for Waterworks Park, so thank you. Or you're welcome, maybe we should say, for canceling last week's. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit warmer. My last item this evening is we had the distinct pleasure tonight of starting our meeting recognizing Emily and her contributions over the last 10 years. But it is also my privilege to end our meeting tonight with an introduction of my recommended appointment to assume the Deputy City Administrator's position. After Emily announced her plans to leave at the end of January, we dedicated countless hours to the recruitment process in hopes of having the position filled as close to her departure date as possible. There were countless coffees, lunches, phone calls, meetings, as we both sort of advertised the position and reached out through our various networks professionally to advertise the opportunity. The response we received to all of that was encouraging and maybe even a little bit overwhelming. We had extremely qualified candidates, and knowing that there was such an interest in the work that we're doing here in Mission was really, truly humbling. The mayor, council members Boltinghouse and Chosey, and several members of the leadership team were involved in the multi-round interview and selection process. So thank you to everyone who contributed time and attention to making this important decision for our organization. So without further ado, I'm pleased to seek the confirmation of the appointment of Mr. Justin Carroll as the Deputy City Administrator for Finance and Administrative Services. Justin is currently serving as the Assistant City Administrator of Mission Hills, where he has been since February of 2021. Prior to that, he spent 4 years at Johnson County, serving in various roles in the county manager's office. His work experience also includes time as a financial economist for the Kansas Department of Revenue, and as a principal fiscal analyst for the Kansas Legislative Research Department. He's an undergraduate degree from Benedictine College and a Master of Public Administration from UMKC, and both his qualifications and experience helped to set him apart from the other candidates we interviewed for this position. Additionally, and maybe more importantly, his passion for local government and inviting personality caused us to extend an offer and ask him to join our City of Mission team. As I conducted reference checks recently on Justin, I was struck by the words used to describe him: trustworthy, great confidant, willing to express his opinions, hardworking, thoughtful, fun, respectful. One even said, "You sure are getting a good one." I think we've heard that somewhere else this evening, right? So with that, I would ask for council consideration of that confirmation, and following that, we look forward to a February 19th start date and to onboarding him with the organization. He is here this evening. I believe I should turn around and look. It's been a little bit of a long
Make sure we
meeting.
haven't scared him away yet.
That's right. And so certainly, I don't know if he wants to make any comments, but he is here this evening.
Justin, do you want to come up?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I cut my teeth in the State House, so this is fine. Thanks for just allowing me to make a few comments, and thank you, Laura, for the kind words. You know, I'd say watching from afar, I've been impressed with kind of some of the things that have been going on with the city of Mission, and lots of exciting stuff going on here, whether it's the sustainability initiatives, some thoughtful economic development I got to be a part of tonight and watch, the Johnson Drive corridor, and stormwater, which after working with Mission Hills, as I've learned, is just a never-ending journey in Northeast Johnson County. Clearly some very big shoes to fill, but I'm very excited to kind of join a great organization and assist in any ways I can with all the exciting stuff going on here. Thank you.
Great. Any questions for Justin?
No, don't ask.
We won't open up that can of worms. All right. Well, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I recommend the confirmation of the appointment of Justin Carroll as Deputy City Administrator for Finance and Administrative Services for the City of Mission, Kansas. Welcome, Justin.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Robin, please call the roll.
Thomas.
Yes.
Boltinghouse.
Aye.
Loudon.
Yes.
Ryherd.
Aye.
Kring.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Carpenter Davis.
Aye.
Josie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Well, welcome, Justin. And we're looking forward to having you jump in on February 19th. There we go. Countdown. Thank you. All right. Well, we do not have the need for an executive session this evening. So before we adjourn tonight, I just want to share with the public that the video from this meeting will be available on a link from our website at missionks.org. There being no further business tonight, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. We are adjourned.